And I know in my own heart, I want to help people succeed. That's why I'm on the planet. So if I pull myself out of the mix, those people are still looking, and they're going to go to that person that's going to take their money and lead them out to dry. Even if I don't have all their answers, the fact that I have a heart to care and I'm willing to find answers for them will mean more to them than just somebody taking their money and leaving them hanging out to dry.
Welcome to We Do Hard Things, the show about facing fears, taking big risks, and chasing down dreams. On today's show, how a thoughtful, introverted man went from sitting in the audience dreaming about helping people from the stage to being personally mentored by Trent, Shelton, and Les Brown, and what you can learn from his story on your own way to becoming a better speaker. If you've ever wanted to become a public speaker, the process of becoming one can feel daunting. First, it feels like there is competition everywhere. And second, more than that, there are others who have more experience and they have bigger followings and they have more connections, and they have more resources. And these reasons, these excuses, are the things that stop most people from ever moving past the part of dreaming, right? They sit in the audience, they look up on stage, they watch YouTube videos, they dream of themselves becoming a speaker, and they never actually become one. Now, let's say for a second, though, that you're watching this and you have no interest in becoming a speaker. Here's why today's conversation is one that you need to hear anyway. Because no matter what you do, start that business, switch careers, become a pro athlete, hell, become a pro anything, you are going to be bumping up against people who have more experience, have a bigger following, have more connections, who have more resources. And that's why I love today's guest, because Marcus Black is known for three things. He's humble and honest. He's got a lot of energy, and he has a huge heart. And so the conversation that follows covers the tactical steps he took to become a speaker, the mindset shift he had to make to put himself on a bigger stage, and as a bonus, how he addresses anxiety in life. But let's start today's conversation at the beginning of Marcus's journey with how he got started.
One of the things I did when I first stepped out and started my trajectory to say I want to be an influencer, so to speak, I just want to be a person that impacts people. And so I reached out to my favorite public speaker and I said, hey, man, I don't know what it's going to take, but can I get with you? Can I come sweep the floors? Can I just be in your presence and learn from greatness? And then I'll even pay you to do that.
And that's Trent, is it?
That's Trent Shelton. He heard it. He heard the heart and he said, you know what, bro? I love your heart. Let's do this. Let's get to work. So we started working. And one of the first things he talked to me about was building a community and building these things that people know me for, like taglines and phrases that become synonymous with me. And so I spent the year trying to figure that out. I was like, man, he told me to do it, but I don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. And I remember the day I was at the lake, which is my spot, if anybody watches the content, and I was speaking about comparison. And I was saying, why are you comparing yourself to that person? Yeah, they are great, but so are you. And you're not defined by what you've been through. You're not defined by any of those negative experiences. So you need to stop limiting yourself and your own beliefs. Stop telling yourself that you can't do it, but walk in your greatness. And I said, because you can. And when I said it, bro, when I tell you, like, all the hair on my entire body stood up, and instantly I said, that's it. Because that was my message. I was always told I can't. And the moment I started saying I can, my life changed and I started.
Why were you told you can't? Were you actually told that, or did you just hear that?
No, I was told I can't. I was told I can't by a lot of people.
Why?
Know? Maybe it was because of, if I really think about psychologically, it wasn't that they didn't think I can't, it's because they didn't believe they could. So it's like their own self-limiting beliefs transferred through and to me.
Yeah. So this is what I mean. You have a spirit, man, and this is what the volume level between us just talking and you going into Hercules mode is next level, and it's there's a spirit and there's an energy and there's a soul. What I want to know behind, and I think most people who want to be motivational speakers, who want to inspire, who want to help, who want to give back. I mean, that's what everyone wants to do secretly, right? And so some people want to do it, but never do. Some people want to do it and start working towards it, but get impatient or lose hope or can't figure out the monetization of things or whatever it is, because it takes a long time. So where are you in your journey? I mean, like the number one question I have in the back of my mind is, how does one decide that they want to become this speaker, go all in on it, and still have a roof over their head, have, food on the table, pay the bills and all of those things? I mean, it's cool that Trent Shelton loves you and wants to help you. It's cool that you're in Les Brown's Hungry to Speak program. It's cool that you're you're developing your skill set. You're in your master class of becoming the person you need to be. How the heck do you survive?
That is such a great question. And that's the questions that people need answers to, because that's the question that so many just decide. Like you said, everybody wants to help and everybody wants. And then you got to start asking yourself why you want what you want, because a lot of people truly want a spotlight. A lot of people want the influence, the fame, the accolade, and those things don't last. So you can't do it for that. So the first question you got to ask is why you want what you want. Because when you understand why you want it, that is what will sustain you on those days where you're like, man, I don't know where this money is going to come from. And so what I did was I went all in. I did go all in. I left my job, but I found another job that was in alignment with what I'm trying to do. Mm-hmm. So I work for a nonprofit, and I don't make a lot of money, but it is enough to sustain and keep us regulated and afloat and gives me the time to build, to go and speak, to learn how to speak, to learn how to go to conferences, to go build connections. So really what I would tell you is how you sustain yourself is to find something that you can do that will generate income and revenue. It doesn't have to be a lot, but just to stabilize you so that you don't lose everything and burn out and lose the dream during the chase.
So you say you have to know why you're doing what you're doing. What is that why for you? Where does that come from?
So for me, and I know we all believe differently, but I made a promise to God years ago. I had a dance with death. And in that dance with death, I felt like there's no way I'm supposed to be here, yet I am. And I spent wild. When I tell you wild, just regular night, friends and I, is nighttime. And we were driving down the highway and I'm kind of dozing off. We had a good night out, clean, fun, no drinking, nothing, just chilling. And I remember hearing one of the loudest explosions I've ever heard. It was like, boom, and this happens. And I find myself waking up startled. My friend's driving like, what's happening? He's like, I don't know. And the car's jumping, fishtailing. We fly off the highway 75 miles per hour. I'm talking Dukes of Hazzard style, Fast and the Furious, car in the air, elevated, nearing a bridge, 25 feet in the air. The car is just spinning, trees slapping me in the face, glass flying everywhere, cutting me. My head is slinging back and forth before finally we hit a massive tree. And then that tree smashed the back of the car and crushed us in a ball like an accordion. And we were squashed like sardines. So in that moment, my eyes were closed. I was afraid to open them because I was afraid of what I might see. I was thinking, there's no way, this is it. It's over. And spoiler alert, it wasn't over. I'm still here. But that situation left me questioning, why? Why did that happen? Why am I here? What is the point? And I asked why for a long time, and I never got an answer to that question. And I feel like I never got an answer because I was asking the wrong question. It wasn't why am I here or why did this bad thing happen? It was what was it for? Because every single thing I've ever been through in this life built a resolve in me, built strength and muscles and tools that I would need to be able to influence and inspire people at the biggest level. So then I said, okay, I'm going to not ask why anymore. And I made a commitment to God that I'm going to spend the rest of my days, sun up to sundown, pouring my whole heart and my whole soul out, all in the name of lighting fires and people to wake them up from this slumber of mediocrity that people typically walk in so that they can go maximize their life and their potential.
Yes, I love it. Just that shift in thinking, the shift from asking yourself why things happen to you to what was it for is a total game changer. Because asking yourself why things happen to you puts you in a victim mindset. The world out there is big and it's scary and you have no control over it. Stuff is being thrown at you and you're not ready or prepared to deal with it. Why? Why did this happen? Why does this keep happening? And if you ask yourself that question, your brain is going to come up with an answer, but probably not a very nice one. Your brain will point out all the things you did wrong, the things you could have done better, all the little mistakes that you've made. Again, victim, because victims aren't in control. Victims aren't good enough. But asking yourself, what was this for? That's a totally different way to look at things. Now, you still may not be in control of the things that are happening to you, but this question assumes that you are in control of what you do next. And asking yourself that question, it plucks you out of a victim mode into a warrior mode. You are in battle. What was this for? Well, to teach you, to help you, to guide you, to connect you with more of the right people. Now, I know from Marcus's story, figuring this out didn't come fast and it didn't come easy. So I needed to know from the time of having the accident to the time of having this epiphany, how much time passed?
About 2.5 years time.
2.5 years.
I was questioning for 2.5, like really wondering, feeling like, what am I doing? Like, what is this for? Asking that question, miserable at college. And I remember when I had the awakening and I'm like, yo, like, no. And so once I made that commitment, I went all in with helping people however I could. It didn't look like then what it looks like now.
Yeah.
It wasn't a podcast then. It wasn't a book then. It wasn't traveling, speaking on stages, but it was just whoever was in my presence and whoever had a need for help, a need for a friend, a need for a brother, a need for a mentor, I was there.
You're very open. You're very vulnerable. You're willing to answer any question. So that's why I can ask you this question. Is there a difference between your confidence and what you're able to tell yourself when you're getting ready for performance mode, for stage mode, for firing people up mode? But at the same time, you go back to everyday life. You go back to regular life. You go back, to your job. And how do you not, I know the answer is to be true and aligned, but how do you not feel like a hypocrite or imposter syndrome or some of these things where you are so bold in what you pour into people? But I mean, we all have our own insecurities. We all have our own doubts. We all have our own fears. It's so easy to say it with the energy and hope that you help people. And then you go home and you're like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Does that ever happen to you?
So it did. It used to, but I remember when it switched. And so for me, like I heard Inky Johnson say, how you do anything is how you do everything years ago. And when he said it, it literally triggered something in me. So that's how I live my life. So it's funny because there are people who will get on the phone with me for a call or a coaching call. They just want to talk. And in the middle of that call, we're just having a regular conversation. And then all of this like energy and life come out and they're like, oh, you're like really like this. I was like, this is not an act. This is my life.
Yeah.
And so whatever
I can imagine you're hanging out with friends and someone, you're at the dinner table and you're like, these are the greatest steaks ever.
It's funny, but like my friends are like, this guy's so extra. Like I'll give you a prime example. This is a real example. We had a critical ice storm here in Oklahoma and it happened in October. It happened at Halloween. And the trees hadn't lost their leaves yet. They weren't ready for the ice. And so they were too heavy. And so it looked like a F5 tornado came through, like a war zone because all the trees that snapped because of the ice. And so I had a massive maple tree, a silver maple tree that was just all over my yard, big limbs that I had to clean up and put them at the road. And they were literally like up to my chest by the time I stacked them all the way down my yard. And so I'm outside and I got these trees on my shoulders and I'm just jumping, I'm singing, I'm like slinging them around. I made it into a game. I'm literally talking like this. I'm recording videos. There's video evidence of this, by the way, on Instagram. But that's just to show you. I'm like, if I got to do this anyway, if this has to happen, why would I not make it fun? Why would I not do it with the same fervor as if I was standing on a stage inspiring people? So there's no difference between how I do anything. If I show up to mentor the kids and it's 3 of them in a building, they're going to get the same heart, the same soul, the same energy, the same passion as if I was on the stage in front of 3 million people. Like it's going to be the same. And that's a standard and a principle, because that's one of the things we talk about is living by standards. And so if you can learn to incorporate that in your life, when you live by the principle, then consistency will literally take you wherever you want to go. You won't have some of those up and down times. Now I had to get there to address your question, because there was years ago when I first started this, I didn't believe I could do this.
Yeah.
I didn't believe I had the voice. I didn't believe I had something to say.
Tell me about that version of Marcus.
I remember seeing, people like Trent, Shelton, people like Les Brown, I like speakers that I admire, and thinking like, man, I love helping people, but I could never do that. And so I didn't try for a very long time. And that's where you talk about imposter syndrome. Like, I can't do that. But here's the thing. Like, I can't do that because that's them. I can't be Trent. I can't be Les. I can't be anybody other than me. But I had to learn that, because at first that was the journey I was on. I was trying to figure out how to take what I have and somehow mold it into like what they were doing. And that just doesn't work. It doesn't work. If you want to try to communicate like Mark and be him, you can't. If you want to try to be me, you can't. You can only be you. But that was a journey. And I remember when I was released from it, I do remember that experience.
Yeah. What happened?
Yeah. I was teaching a class and I hated this. I hated being in front of people. I hated talking in front of people. This level of like passion and emotion that I'm known for now, it wasn't the case then. And I was just trying to rush. Let me get through this information fast as possible to get off this stage, because I do not want to do this. But I worked for a church and they were like, you don't have a choice. You're going to do this. I was like, I don't want to do this. They were like, you want the job, right? Yes. You got to do this. This comes with the territory. So they start training me. And I remember one day I was in the class, just like normal. I was about halfway through. I was like, ooh, almost there. Let's go. Let's get through this and keep it moving. And that was like 2.5 years into me doing this. So I had been just getting through it for a long time. And that particular day, there was a young lady in the room, and she just like kind of stood up and was like, stop. Like, she like, can I stop you? And my brain said in my head, no, you can't.
I got to get through this.
No, exactly.
You can't stop this.
Like, no, you can't. No, that's not how this works. I got to. And she said, I need to say something. And I was like, let's define need here, right? And she starts breaking down, crying really hard.
Ooh.
And that's when I was like, the compassionate, empathetic side of me kicked in. It was like, oh no, like, what's wrong? And she just had a meltdown in front of everybody. And she said, I don't know what to do. I don't want to be here anymore. She said, my own family is in this building in the next room, and they don't know I slept outside last night. She said, they don't know that I slept on the street snorting cocaine lines last night. And I don't know what else to do. I need help. And when she said that, whatever was in front of me didn't matter anymore, because there was a human being who was hurting and desperate in front of me. And so when I started talking to her, I started speaking to her heart, and I started validating her feelings. I started encouraging her for the bravery and courage it took for her to speak up. And then I started telling her that, look, it doesn't matter what you did yesterday. It doesn't matter what happened when you woke up this morning. It doesn't matter what you did. You're not defined by, like, that was the first time what many people know me for now. That was the first time that came out of me. And it was almost scary, but I didn't stop it. I just kept going because I was speaking to her heart. And that's when the light bulb went off. Every single time I get up in front of people, the dots were connected. Somebody's life is on the line. I don't know who's listening. I don't know who's struggling with depression right now. I don't know who's struggling with anxiety right now. I don't know. And so because I don't know, it literally forced me to now say every time I get an opportunity to speak, and it's never gone back. There's never been a time I've spoken anywhere since then. That may have been 4 or 5 years ago, where it wasn't my whole heart and my whole soul, because I realized lives are on the line. This ain't for show. People's lives are on the line.
I've heard a bit of your story. It wasn't a small church you were working in and stuff.
No, it's a mega church.
Yeah. I mean, so depending where you are in the world or where you are, I'm up here in Canada. So like our big churches, I was part of a big church. We had 700 people. So, when you're talking about mega churches, it's probably like campuses and stuff like that. And
yeah, we have 4 or 5 campuses across states. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys turned church into like sport down there.
It definitely was. It was definitely big. It was a spectacle for sure.
And so what called you into the church? Like to serve?
the thing is, like, I always knew because of the commitment and promise I made to God that I wanted to serve people. I knew that. And what happened along that journey is I was working at a smaller church, a local church, and you know, it was good, but I got to a point where I kind of felt stagnant in my growth. My wife felt stagnant. We were just visiting different places and someone invited us to this particular church. And I was thinking, like,
you were church shopping. That's what we call it.
That's what that's what it was. And we went in and I remember this place was like freaking Disney World. It was massive, 50-foot ceilings, these huge banners hanging down like championship, but it was the vision of the church hanging from these banners. And the people were just like elated. And I was like, man, these people are way too happy. I'm like, that's got to be fake. You know, I'm just thinking it's a production. And so I was skeptical. And so we kept going back and we have been there a year. And after a year, the people were still like gung ho. It was like the same. And I'm like, okay, after a year's time, like fake will wear off. I'm like, this is the heart of these people. And we started to lean in. The first time I ever walked in with that Disney feeling, I was like, man, this would be cool. It would be really cool to work here someday. But then I was like, you couldn't even work at the little church you just at. This will never, I literally thought to myself, this will never happen. Yeah. And like a year after that, I was being interviewed. Why did I think that? Because I think because of where I was from, you know, I had a lot of people making promises to me about coming and working for different churches, smaller churches. And it was all like a bunch of talk. There was never any follow through. There was never like, I want to actually put you in a position to work. So if I wasn't good enough to do it there with them, how am I going to do it at this church with like north of like all these thousands of people? Come on now. That was just in my brain.
That's such an interesting point or lesson though, right? Like, so sometimes we think that smaller, like if we're not good enough for the small, we're not good enough for the big, but sometimes the small just doesn't have the budget, or they just don't have the ability or the resources, or they only have 8 people on staff and there's already 8 people there. And so it's so interesting that sometimes you can actually start at the bigger thing just because there's more opportunity, in fact.
And I did. I started at the bigger thing, which was bizarre, but it turned out to be a really good thing. Like, there were things that I learned there. There were ways that they prepared and taught me about leadership, because that was never a thing that I leaned into prior to. And they really taught me a lot about the importance of leaning in and personal development and growth. And that's empowered me to do what I'm doing right now.
Okay, we're going to get a little serious here because we're talking about faith. So in my own spiritual journey, my wife and I became Christians in 2004. But over the last 2 years, I've gone through the process of deconstructing my faith, but I've yet to go through the process of reconstructing it. Part of what started to irk me, though, started to kind of like pull me a little bit off path, was that once you start to get into personal development, when you start to get into psychology and neuroscience of how your brain works, and you're starting to get into all of these things to make yourself better, you're typically looking for answers. And what I found in the churches that I've gone to in the past is that more often than not, the answer is always God. And it's like, okay, cool. I'm going to sit through another hour and a half sermon. I already know the answer. I already know where we're going with this. The answer is God. The answer is in the Bible, and it's love and it's compassion and it's selflessness, and that's all cool. But after a bunch of years, after a lot of years, it's kind of like, I already got the cheat sheet. I already know where we're going with this. Now, this may be me being very, very cynical, but knowing Marcus's backstory, I had to ask, is there any truth in what I'm saying?
It's not you being super cynical. And this is some of the conversations that I started having with different leaders, because when you start dealing with all the major ills, even with, like, you talk about anything, like even when you talk about racism and you just say the answer is God, like, number one, they're not wrong, but that's the safe answer, because the answer is God. But how? Because there is a how. Because Jesus didn't just say the answer is God. When he was with the widows and the orphans, he didn't tell them, well, the answer is God. He said, the answer is God, but God is love. And so because of love, I'm going to bring you food. I'm going to bring you companionship. I'm going to sit with you. I'm going to eat with you. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to bring you clothes. I'm going to meet your need. So when they do that, it's almost like, I don't want to stir the pot or cause any controversy or ruffle any feathers. So I'm just going to take the easy way out, is what I believe. Because God is capable of having any of these conversations, the big conversations, the difficult conversations, and the answer is him. But how? Because I often believe that his answer is through the people. He often met people's needs through the people. But if we're not willing to really get in and get our hands dirty and have the conversations and do the work and build the relationships, then you are doing people a disservice to just say that. I think that's kind of like scapegoating. It's definitely taking the easy way out.
Yeah. And so
because they're not wrong, but it's not fully right.
Yeah. And when you're challenging these leaders, what do you tell them?
I think it's just having conversations like I just did. Like, and it's only people that I have a close relationship with, but I'm thinking like, now, I'm getting deep. If a person is like really contemplating things, self-harm, contemplating things like destructive paths turning to addiction, if I just tell them the answer is God, what does that mean when they're alone and they're by themselves and they don't have a place to guide them? So I'm saying we are
especially
responsible.
If they feel disconnected.
Exactly. So the answer is God, but it might be God through me sitting with them and walking them through the things that I did to overcome anxiety in my life, which was a very practical steps.
You are at this transition point, and we don't know how long the season will be between now and you, like, you know, being, you know, the world known name. You know, we don't know if that's a few years or a decade away, but you're going somewhere. And so I know that you believe in like being able to have that picture crystallized and being able to own it and being able to share it and being able to work towards it. Most people are afraid to admit to themselves the dream that they actually have. They're certainly afraid to share that dream with anyone else. And they don't even believe in themselves enough to work towards that dream. And so I'm curious for you what all that is.
Man, I love that you asked the question. And that's one of the biggest things I teach people. What do you want? What do you want and why do you want it? And I want to breathe life and fire into the far corners of the world. That means I am on the trajectory to become a worldwide phenomenon, if you want to use that word, lack of a better term. But I want to be I'm already an international speaker. I speak in like 7 countries, but I mean, where that's like what I do. I take my family to see the world, and the world knows who I am, but not about me, not for the sake of who I am, because I always tell people what legacy is. I want to build a legacy. That's what's next for me. I had to make a name. I'm in that make a name process right now. People are starting to know who I am, but I want to build a legacy. And people are like, well, what is legacy? Is about success. Legacy is not about success. Legacy is not about getting the bag and having as much money as possible. It's about whose life is better because you became successful. It's about whose life is better because you got the bag. And so I want to literally ascend to this point to where when you mention the Tony Robbins, the Les Browns, the pillars of a generation, the Zig Ziglars, there's all of these guys, and now they're passing it over to the younger generation. You got Dean Graziosis, you got Evan Carmichael's, Trent Shelton, you got this generation. I want to be like the person that's in position when these guys say it's time for me to pass the baton, that I'm right there ready to grab it, take the next generation to the next level and light the fire for other people to realize that they can do the same. So that's where I'm headed.
What gives you the confidence that you can do that when we consider that it feels like the most competitive time ever to be a thought leader? Like people in the 80s and 90s, no one was looking for self-help or thought leadership, so that was hard. People are looking for self-help and thought leadership, but everyone is a thought leader these days. Like, you can't go to a Starbucks without being like, who's a thought leader? And you just randomly hit every single person, right?
I love this, man. I love the question. And what you just said is the primary fear most have when stepping into the space is, and I had that for a while, like, why would I when there's already so many? It's the worst mistake you can make. Because as many of them as there are and how great they may be, there's only one me.
I know, but that's the same as saying God is the answer, right? Like there's only one you, and there's only one of your voice, and and that's true. There's only one me, there's only one you, there's only one We Do Hard Things podcast, there's only one type of conversation like this. But that's like, to me, going to church and going like, I know where the answer is, it's God. Like, I know what the answer is, there's only one us. Still not enough, is it?
So here's where we different, where I see the two differentiate. I don't think they're the same, because when I talk to Trent, I had people, mentors tell me, yeah, I don't think you should work with Trent. they weren't speakers. They knew he was. But the reason they said that is because how do you know that he's not just going to take your money? You don't really know him. You admire him, what you see. How do you know he's not going to just take your money? You're telling him you want to be him. You're telling him you're his competition. How do you know he's not just going to take your money and just give you just enough to keep you satisfied? And I didn't know the answer to that. I just said, I don't believe he'll do that. And so I started actually investing in a coaching program with him in the beginning. And day one, he gave me everything. When I say he gave me everything, he gave me everything. The whole blueprint. And then we start breaking it down. So I asked him, I told him that they said that to me. He laughed. I said, bro, why would you do that? Why would you give me everything if you know what I want to be? Like you said, it's a competitive space. He said, how many people are there in the world? I said, 7.5 billion. He said, exactly. He said, how many followers do I have? I was something like 15 million at the time. He said, okay. So if I can reach 15 million people, let's say it grows to 30, I reach 30 million people. There's 7.5 billion people on the planet.
Right.
He said, I'm giving it to you because I need you. So even if it feels competitive in this little space, if we think bigger in the world, we couldn't reach them all if we wanted to. Even if every personal development person in this place had a following of a couple 100,000, 500,000 and was making a legit impact, we still wouldn't hit all the numbers of all the people there are to reach. So what I'm saying is when I say there's only one me, somebody needs my voice that Les Brown can never reach. Somebody needs your voice that I can never reach. So it is, in a way, it's simple, but I guess I'm unpacking it a little bit more now. I'm a kid that's from the country, that's from poverty, that's from an interracial relationship, that's from addiction. There's all these things that uniquely position me to hit a certain percentage of that somebody else can't hit. But then Trent was a professional athlete and he knows what it feels like to have that ripped from under you. So now he can reach a demographic that I can't hit. And then there's the ladies who can reach women in a way that I can never speak to them. So it's like, once you start looking at what uniquely gifts you, the confidence I have is knowing that I came from the school of the hard knocks, which is life. And what I've learned in my experience has uniquely gifted me to speak to the people who have had, now I can speak general across the board, but I can get in the weeds with the group of people that have lived like I lived. And you can get in the weeds with the people that have lived like you. So like, it really needs all of us. And if we have the abundance mindset, instead of the opposite, then we realize that we all can win and we really should work together, because there's times where Trent has got offered speaking engagement. He'll say, I think I know a guy that might be better. And what if I said, man, I could do that and I can make the money, but what if that's really not where I need to be? And now the industry doesn't function this way, but what if a group of people, what if a generation was bold enough to change it and say, this is bigger than money. There's enough money to go around. This is purpose. And I'm not the best fit for what you need, but I got a brother named Mark that's the guy. I know a guy. What if?
Send it my way. Let's go.
But that's how the people that I run with, that's how we function.
Yeah.
Now, everybody isn't that way, but at some point, the torch passes and there's a new generation and we get to make the choice what it looks like.
Now, at this point in the conversation, we change gears a little bit, because earlier on, when I was speaking with Marcus, he mentioned kind of in passing that he had anxiety. And our regular listeners will know that this is something that I've really struggled with in my past and something that I continue to work through kind of on the daily. But you can look at the stats. You can talk to friends. You can talk to family. You can speak to coworkers. You can, go to office, workplace, environment surveys and studies and all of that stuff. But here's a fact. For our generation, anxiety is crippling. And it's more than performance anxiety. It's more than a fear of failure. Our anxiety, our universal anxiety, keeps us from saying the things we need to say, having the conversations we need to have, doing the things we need to do, putting ourselves out there in the way we need to put ourselves out there. And this is keeping us from being our best.
I'll tell you the first experience I had, and then I'll tell you what I've done over time. Because I want to give people here's the thing, because I know even when we say personal development, and I hate the term, like this is something Trent and I talk about, motivational speaker, because just because I speak big energy and big life, a lot of people think rah-rah cheerleader, but I want to give you practical. I want to give you something that you can do. This is not fluff. will give you heart and soul, but also a blueprint. So when I was 9 years old, I was playing the video game Street Fighter with my dad. And
wait. Which character did you play? This
never happened before. Bro, Ken, always, bro. I'm a Ken guy to the end. So my dad like Bison. Hey, anybody wants to work, you can get that work in Street Fighter to the day. Just saying. So I remember my dad goes to bed. I'm playing with my friend, and I remember my character died. That famous video game death. He was like, ooh, 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 you know, and he hits the ground, and his body bounces. And in that moment, it's never happened before, but I literally felt like a vacuum just sucked my face and went and like took my breath away, and I was hyperventilating, and I couldn't really see. It's like I was in this like box, and I couldn't breathe, and I was fighting, and all I could imagine was like, one day I'm going to die, and I'm not going to be here. I'm going to cease to exist. And I started imagining myself be buried, like the light literally dimming in my eyes and me becoming buried alive. And I was like just in this place for like 3 to 4 minutes. That's a long time to be in that type of. And so my mom finally comes in the room because my friend is about to cry. He doesn't know what to do. And my mom is like shaking me, and finally the breath comes back. And I was just shaking, and I was quivering, and she was like, baby, what is wrong? And my question to her was, Mommy, am I going to die? And she said, yes, baby, you are. She always kept the real. She said, but not for a very long time. Like 100 years. And so it gave me a little comfort, but that wasn't the last time. It started coming more and more and more through my teenage years. It was nightly. Then it was a brief, like when I turned like 19, 20, 21, I had to like, don't care mentality. I was just out living reckless, doing stupid stuff. Then it didn't bother me again. But when I turned 21, it was like a realization. All right, you're an adult now. You got to figure out what you're going to do with your life. It came back, and it would keep me up at night, and it would hit me. And when I was a kid, they used to last like through teenagers used to last 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Then they started getting to like these less long attacks of like despair. And I know somebody listening to the sound of my voice knows what that feels like. And so the car accident was the first step, because after that was a wake up call, and that triggered something in my mind to say, all right, time is not unlimited. I don't have a bunch of time to sit and think about all the things that could potentially go wrong. But I didn't know what to do with that. That was just a thought I had. So that was kind of in the back of my subconscious, but it wasn't strong enough to prevent me from literally, crippling. Like you guys, my wife, like I jump out of bed in the middle of the night and like just run. And like, this sounds bizarre, but that's what it was. So when it started to change is when I started realizing the first practical thing that I give a person is grounding technique. I'm sure you've heard of this. Maybe a therapist talked to you, but grounding is where you utilize your 5 senses to bring yourself back into the present reality. So I like the attack would hit me in the middle of the night, maybe in a dream, and I would jump up out of my bed, hyperventilating, and then I start rubbing my feet on the ground. And I ask the question, what do you feel? What does it feel like? And I start answering the question. And then I say, okay, what do you see? I see a color. I see yellow. Every time I see Mark, I think yellow. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, all right. Now, what do you taste? What do you touch? What do you smell? You use your 5 senses. When you do that, that's step 1. That has a way of bringing your mind out of that space, because so much of anxiety is like subconscious, and it's the mind, and it's like thinking about things, and like subconscious worry and stress. For whatever reason, we carry this weight and these burdens. And so I carried a lot of those and didn't even realize it. So that kind of brings me back into the moment. And then the next thing I do is I practice gratitude. So this is like, it feels unnatural in the moment, but I'm telling you, I start saying, okay, what am I grateful for?
Yeah.
And I literally just start naming them. It could be 2:30 in the morning, and I'm standing there with my hand on the wall, catching my breath, and I'm saying, man, I'm so grateful to be alive. I'm so grateful that I'm in a roof and somebody's outside right now. I don't wish that on them. I'm just saying I have something to be grateful for. I got food tomorrow. I have provision coming. I have resources coming. My kids are healthy. My wife is healthy. Okay. And then as I do that, it's like my nerves are slowly starting to suppress. And then it's about living in the now. Eckhart Tolle talks about the power of now. Because if I live in tomorrow and the worry of what may happen, what could potentially go wrong. Because when I start having those attacks, my brain goes all the way down the rabbit hole.
Oh, yeah.
Like I've played out whole Final Destination scenes for myself.
Yeah. Did you have kids?
I have 2.
You can play them out for the kids even, like sometimes you can get super visual in terms of just how terrible things can get, man.
Yes. And I hate to think about it, but I've thought about it.
Yeah.
So, because I got one kid, oh my goodness, he's not scared of anything, which bothers me, because we'll be like going on a hike or somewhere. He'll be the kid that's going to walk off the edge of the mountain. And my brain goes to that whole scene. I mean, all the way through. And I'm like, no, stop. But that's where living in the present, because I have no control over what happens tomorrow. I have no control over what happens later today. Later today is not even promised to me. So these are,
you're not taking medication for this. You're not like part of, cognitive behavioral therapy and all of this stuff. Like you use this grounding, you use this gratitude, and this gets you through.
And the power of now. Yeah. Now I'm not against medication, especially if that's like, if it helps, then I say, why would you not? It's a tool that's on the table, use it. But I haven't been able to stop attacks from coming. But when they do come, they don't last more than 15 seconds, because once I tap in and I do that, for whatever reason, it makes my brain and my nerves come all the way down, and I can breathe. And then I just refocus my thoughts on something else. But that didn't happen overnight. That was like years of like practicing that, to where they just got shorter and shorter and shorter. And then they started being 5 times a week, and they started being like once a week. And then they start being once a quarter. And I haven't had one creep up this year at all. But this is the first year that's been the case. But I've been struggling with this since I'm 9 and I'm 34. So it was a lot of years in there. I would say for you, you're a great man. And I don't know you super well, but I've just listened to your heart, and I love it. And I admire, we do hard things. That in itself is an affirmation to people, because so many people think that they're not capable, and you're capable of doing so much more. You just proved it through your own physical strenuous activity, how much harder things we can actually do.
Yeah.
So I say that to say, like, you're a warrior. And so sometimes it's like you can carry a weight as a warrior with you, because you're going into battle that you don't even know you're carrying. It's just in there. And so maybe trying some of those things in conjunction with the other things you're doing might give you a little relief.
Listen, words of affirmation is my love language. So if people want to give me compliments, it just fills up my soul, and I love it, and it's all amazing. But Tom Bilyeu says the only thing that matters is how you feel about yourself when you're by yourself. It's the script that you have in your mind. It's the place that you go to. I would love to feel good enough. I would love to feel like what I'm doing actually matters. I would love to feel like I can even come close to the high hopes I have for myself. I would love to believe all these things and feel all these things for sustained periods of time, because I do feel these things sometimes. But it's what happens when you lose the busyness. What happens when you're laying in bed at night? What happens when you're outside cleaning up your yard, and you have that moment to kind of be alone and reflect? Where does your mind go? And for me, it goes kind of all of these places. And so what I'm trying to do more than anything is just like realize, one, how it hasn't served me in the past. 2, what do I need to do to like reprogram some of these things? So when I hear a fellow man who has worked through it, I just want to know what worked.
Man, I appreciate the realness. These are the type of conversations I like to have, because we're having this conversation about our struggles, but every single one of you listening has your own struggles. And probably many of you had the same struggles as us. Anxiety is a crippling disease that affects almost more than any other disease in the world. So many people have it and don't even realize that's what it is. So the fact that we're able to have the conversation is powerful. And the only question, it's even a question is that I have in my mind is, what makes you feel that way? Because here's the thing. This is where this is powerful. This is where me not knowing you as well is powerful, because all I have is the body of work you have.
Yeah.
And the interactions we've had. And those interactions we've had have been nothing but above board. There's been times I've heard you speak, you probably didn't even know I was in the room. And what I heard, because I'm not listening for people's voice, I'm not even listening for people's information. Information is cool, but that's free. I can Google information. What I'm listening for is your heart. That's the difference maker. And that's what I hear in you. That's why I said yes to have this conversation, because I could hear the heart behind what you want to accomplish. So what I'm saying is I can see the greatness in you. I can see it. So what is it that would cause you, when you go to yourself, to know, to question if this matters, if people keep coming back to listen, if people keep saying the things I'm saying to you?
I don't know. It's a fear that future me just doesn't have it. Future me doesn't have it figured out. Future me, like a decision I make today, I will really regret a year or two from now. The money I spend today, the investments we make today, in 2 or 3 years, we're going to run out of it. And I'm going to look back and go, why did I do that? Why, one of the worst panic attacks I had, it wasn't the worst, but one of the worst I had. So my wife, I used to travel a lot for work. And so I would buy a new car every 4 years. And I would just drive and I would replace it. My wife, we have 4 kids, we would always buy a used vehicle. And we would keep it for like 7 to 10 years. So by the end of it, it was just like no air conditioning, rust, the doors don't work, it's falling apart. In 2019, I said to my wife, I'm going to buy you a brand new vehicle. And I thought we were going to buy like a Dodge Caravan like we had in the past. She test drove a Pacifica and she test drove a fully loaded Pacifica. And she wanted the one with like the colors that like, this was the most expensive luxury van you could possibly buy. Now, I'm many years into my business. I thought we were in a really good place. So I was like, okay, we're going to go ahead and get this vehicle for you. And so we were super happy. I negotiated a great price. I got it. I got it for a great price. I was super happy. She went and picked it up. The day she picked it up, I took it out for a drive. And seriously, I'm driving around in this vehicle and I was like, this is the nicest thing that I've ever owned. This is the most money we've ever spent aside from our home. This is a depreciating asset. What did we just do? Why did we do this? This is going to break. The maintenance is going to be crazy. Like literally by the time I'd gone around the block, I came home and I was having a panic attack. I was like, and I literally was telling myself, this will be the downfall of our family. This will be the purchase I will regret for the rest of my life. When we lose everything, I will look back at this moment and think how foolish I was for thinking we could have this Pacifica. And I know it doesn't make sense. I know it doesn't make sense at all. And 2 years later, we've had it for 2 years now. It's been great. Maintenance has been awesome. It hasn't cost that much. Nothing, like I still get in it now. I love it. I'm like, this is the greatest thing we've ever had. But that's the thing that I like. I'm being really honest now. That's the thing where for every single thing, every single decision, every single time, I know things don't matter that much, but to me, it seems like every single thing I do could be the thing that makes everything crumble apart. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my God, bro. First of all, I love your transparency. That's powerful. Really, I'm not exaggerating. As I was listening to you tell your story, I've lived that story, and a lot of people have lived that story. The question is, can you now see how the practice that I just said can come in and alleviate? Because what I heard you saying recurring is all of the potential, it's Murphy's Law, all of these things that could possibly go wrong that will inevitably lead us to our impending doom. But if in the moment you can literally say to yourself, next year isn't promised to me, I got right now. Yeah. I got my wife and my kids. You have kids?
4, yeah.
I got my wife and my 4 kids right now. I got this moment. This car, I got a brand new car and it got hit. I got rear-ended, tore my trunk, crashed it in, totaled it. God forbid, that could happen.
You have bad luck with vehicles, man.
I was just minding my own business and a lady was on her phone and she went, boop, like just smashed, tore my rotator cuff and everything. But the point is, I could have been worried about all these plans for this car and none of it mattered. I just literally did that for nothing, and time I could never get back.
Yeah.
So I force myself into the present and I try to stay here. That doesn't mean, because it's foolish to not plan. So you can plan your business and you can plan your life and your trajectory for your growth, But you can't plan all the details of like the things that could go wrong because you have no idea. But what happens, like you said, 2 years in and none of those things happen. Now you just robbed yourself of all that time you can never get back of peace. You robbed yourself of peace during that entire time frame. And I'm saying this to you, but I'm saying this for all of you because this isn't Mark. This is everybody. This is us. Because we all have those moments where we think, and that doesn't make you bad. Doesn't mean it's just wrong with you. That makes you human to say like, I want to be the best steward of my resources to not be the cause of my family's impending demise. Like, I don't want it to be me. I don't want that. I don't want my choice to do that.
Yeah.
But you do hard things and you've done hard things. And let's say I just live in the now every single day. And one of these days, something horrible happens. Then I deal with it when it comes. But if it never comes, then I'm just robbing myself of precious moments that I can't get back. And that was a conversation I had to myself. And the near-death experience is part of what spurs that to keep me living with a sense of urgency. I live with a sense of urgency like every day is going to be my last. People say that, but I literally live like that. I want to max out every day. I want to live it like it's my last. With my wife, I want them to know I loved hard. With every conversation I have I just want everybody to know, including myself, that I gave it all I had. And when I spend my time in that space and making those moments count, I don't have as much bandwidth to think about all the things and go down the rabbit holes. But that doesn't happen overnight. That is a process. And if you're willing to try it and just start. And here's the thing. In the beginning, it's ridiculous because it's just like meditation. If you tell a person who's never meditated to go meditate, 60 seconds, they won't even make it to 10, I guarantee, before they start thinking lunch. It's impossible when you start, but it's a discipline that's built over time as you learn to steady your thoughts and quiet your mind, which is also something that I do. But that's how I live in the now.
You do meditate, eh?
I do. I go every day and I spend time at the lake. That's why most of my content is created there. Yeah. And I sit out and silencing the noise is important for peace. So when I say silencing the noise, the TV is noise. The phone is noise. And it's a necessary evil. So I'm not saying stay off the phone and eliminate screen time. I'm not that guy, but I am saying I got to give myself at least 30 minutes, most likely an hour, where I go out and I don't have any distraction. It's just my mind just at peace, listening to the waves crash, feeling the breeze on I'm like asking myself, what do I feel? What do I hear? It's kind of like that grounding process that eliminates the noise and brings me peace in the moment. And then when I start my day that way, then I'm like, it's like I'm starting with a clean slate. So when the world throws all this spaghetti at me and all this stuff is like all over me, I can handle it better because I started with a clean slate.
Here's the last question I have, the question I tend to end with. For you, at the end of the day, what does it all come down to?
I want to live and love life, bottom line. Like, there's a lot of people living, they don't love the life they live. Matter of fact, I wouldn't even say living. So it's twofold. I help people live, truly live, not just be alive. And then I help people love the life they live. So there's a lot of people who don't even live. You literally are, I say it all the time. I say people out here AMCing. What is that? They're walking dead. I hate it. I don't want to see people walking dead. So what I'm doing is modeling. I create every single day with intention, and I want to make sure that I do something that gets me closer to my desired outcome. And then I love the life that I live. And I even challenged myself to love the valley seasons because I know through my life experience that those are working together to build something in me that I'm going to be able to use that empowers me on the journey. So the biggest goal for me at the end of every day is like, did I move the ball a little bit forward in my own life to show people? Because it's one thing to say, like you said, I can tell you and shout it from the mountaintops with the best of them. Am I living? Integrity is big for me. And people who know me well will know I've turned down some opportunities that would definitely have escalated me even faster because I refuse to sacrifice who I am in that pillar of integrity. So I want to live the things I'm saying so that people know it's real. And I want to show my wife and my boys something different. My wife and I both come from the most amount of brokenness, extreme brokenness. And I want my boys, number one, to not ever experience that. But I want to show them that when the world hits them, because the world is going to throw some Tyson haymakers at them. It's inevitable. I want them to know that they not only can they eat them, I want them to know that they can overcome, they will overcome, and every single thing they want to do, they can still continue to press through, realize they're stronger than they ever thought they were on the inside, build that resolve, and just keep putting one foot in front of the other. That is the definition of motivation and inspiration to me. It's not some like rah, rah, ah. It's literally every single day, the resolve to put one foot in front of the other. Even if you don't know where you're going, you just go and you're moving in a particular direction. You're learning as you go. You're adjusting as you go. When you said something earlier that really stood out to my heart. You was like, what if I make the wrong decision that doesn't put me in the place with all these other people where they know how to do it and I don't know how to do it. Nobody knows how to do it. So when you ask the question, what gives me confidence is the conversations I've had with the billionaires and the mega millionaires and the people at the top of the industry. Nobody knows. We all trying to figure it out. And I don't care how confident people sound when you hear their voices. Nobody knows for sure. We're all doing the best we can with the resources we have and the information we have to build a better life and a better future and create legacy. So don't discount yourself, because here's the thing, you know your heart. That's just the thing, that when it was coming to like putting courses out and putting myself out there as a speaker, there were so many people that were like, I was like, why would I do that? I'm not good enough. But the thing that I landed on is, there's a bunch of people out there who don't care about people, who are in this industry and just trying to take all the money, make money off of people. Not saying making money is bad, but if you are manipulating people to make money, there's a lot of that. I can vouch for my own heart. And I know in my own heart, I want to help people succeed. That's why I'm on the planet. So if I pull myself out of the mix, those people are still looking, and they're going to go to that person that's going to take their money and lead them out to dry. So I have to put myself on the table as an option, because I know the heart behind even if I don't have all their answers, the fact that I have a heart to care and I'm willing to find answers for them will mean more to them than just somebody taking their money and leaving them hanging out to dry. So what I'm saying to you is, you owe it to the people who are waiting on you to put yourself on the table and not discount what you do know, because what you do know is a whole lot, and not look at what other people know is more than you, because they're trying to figure it out too.
We're all just trying to figure this out. Marcus Black, ladies and gentlemen, I love this man's heart and I love his spirit. Okay, 3 key takeaways from this conversation. Number 1, don't ask, why did this happen? You need to flip that and ask yourself, what was it for? Because everything in life that comes our way by conscious effort or by coincidence can serve us. I don't know if you've heard of this joke. There's this old joke in public speaking circles where every time something goes wrong, the professional speaker doesn't get mad. They think, oh, there's another keynote here. And that's because winners use these types of challenges to their advantage. Okay, number 2, Marcus quoted the book by Suzanne Evans, "The way you do anything is the way you do everything." There's a painful truth in that. Again, a painful truth. I'm not sure about you, but I just think of all the little things I let slide, the things I ignore, the areas of my life where I don't have the highest standards, not the most discipline. And that is a really painful and uncomfortable place to be. But then, you know what? There are all these other areas of my life that I just crush, and you do too. So look at the things you don't do well and stop doing them, or get better. Like, it's that easy. Bring your whole self to the things you do and cut the stuff that you can't muster the energy to do really, really well. And number 3, no matter how competitive this space, no matter how much you feel like one of many, people are waiting for your voice and they are waiting for your message. There is only one of you. No one else. I'm going to say this carefully. I'm going to say this slowly, so listen up. No one else can say the things that you say, the people that you say it to, in the way that you say it, for the reasons that you say it. Now, if you do have something to say, and I'm sure if you're still watching at this point, you do, you have something to say, you have something to share, you have something to build, you have got to face the hard things in your life. It's not easy. It's never easy. But remember, we aren't just dreamers. We're doers, because we do hard things. You have got to hear the conversation I had with the motivational legend, Les Brown. We dig into the toughest moments of his life. And honestly, we go places I have never heard Les talk about. Click on the video right over there to hear this real, inspiring story.